Hello everyone, welcome back to the Strawberry Lily channel. Excuse me while I get myself together. I just gorged on a bunch of snacks, which is a really bad habit that I'm trying to kick, but sometimes you just gotta give into the cravings, you know. It wasn't too bad. They're not huge snacks. It's like these big corn kernels with really yummy sour seasoning, and then this one, I don't know what this is called in English. Kara ika. It's like spicy squid flavored crunchy chips almost. I still want to eat, to be honest with you, but I'm just gonna try and make do with my tea. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I was trying to find a straw. And I have another snack that I might eat later if I am in the mood, but I should probably just start talking. Then that'll be enough to distract me from my cravings. But yeah, the title of this video today is Keep It Simple, Sis, or the acronym KISS, which I first heard this from, I think it was my 3rd grade teacher or someone. This saying, this acronym has definitely been around for a while. And I feel like between then and now, the last S has been attributed to different words. So for example, when my 3rd grade teacher first said it to me, she said, "Keep it simple, students." And then for this video, I'm using the word sis because that fits the lingo of today. But I looked online and there's other ways of saying it as well. Keep it simple, silly, which I don't really vibe with that. So we're gonna go with keep it simple, sis. And I remember my elementary school teacher said this to us when we were geared up to do some sort of, they called it a research paper to make it sound all fancy, but we were in 3rd grade, so it didn't have that stringent requirements, but I think the idea was to kind of get us used to the process of researching, so that we could take that skill with us further along as we progressed throughout the rest of our academic career. And so she would always say to us, "Keep it simple, students, KISS." Like, don't overthink things, just put one foot in front of the other, don't try to do a bunch of complicated things at once. And it was intended to help us not get overwhelmed at the prospect of writing the longest paper that we had ever written up until that point, right? And yeah, so this just came to me recently because, well, I am making this video for anyone who needs to hear it, anyone who could benefit from this information. But as it often goes with these types of live streams that I do, that is actually starting with myself. So I am first and foremost making this video for myself because, as some of you may know, I'm in kind of a rough patch, I don't want to give the negativity too much of my attention, but I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't kind of down in the dumps lately. Oh, very important. I wanted to thank the people that donated to me on PayPal before I forget. So I put up a community post kind of explaining the state of affairs now with me. It's not a good season for me. I'm in my flop era for sure. That's fine. Everyone has to go through their flop era. But yeah, I basically put out kind of like a request for help for anyone who has the money to spare, if they could kindly donate to my PayPal or even just continue using my affiliate links or yeah, like my discount codes. Every little bit helps. And for the people who sent me money directly through PayPal, I just want to say thank you so much. Like, you have no idea how much it means to me and how encouraging it is. Um, and you really, just that alone, like, you have no idea how much it's helping me right now in this moment. Eventually, I am going to get everything sorted out. So don't worry, I have a plan. And I am adhering to this principle of keep it simple, sis, by just taking it one step at a time to solve all the things that are going wrong right now. But yeah, the fact that I have like such support from people that I met on the internet is crazy and also like extremely encouraging in a way. Even though I'm still in the thick of it. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm in the highest spirits at this moment, but that was really encouraging. It's not about like the amount, which surprised me as well. People gave large amounts. I'm not talking about like $5 or $10 donations. I mean, I won't say the exact price to for the sake of people's privacy, but I was like, wow, the fact that you would just give me this huge chunk of money, um, just because you've been a subscriber of me for so many years and because you enjoy my content, like that really means a lot to me in the sense that I don't know, it's very validating, right? Because sometimes I get on here as a small creator and I love creating, but it's harder to see returns on your work as a smaller creator as opposed to if you have a bigger channel with more subscribers, obviously. But yeah, it was very encouraging. And also, I got my first membership sign up as well last night, which I thought I was hallucinating when I first saw it because the person, okay, well, I don't know if they would get mad at me for revealing their username or anything, but it says Ren, like it REN, my name, and then a smiley face, like colon capital D. So thank you to whoever signed up for my memberships. You are, in fact, my very first member, believe it or not. And I don't know if this person purposely set their name to Ren in order to encourage me or if it's just a coincidence, but either way, like that again was a huge, okay, I'm going to use the cringe term, container expansion for me because I have been toying with the idea of getting a YouTube membership off the ground for the past couple of months and I've never really been able to. I mean, like no one has signed up so far. So I've made a few videos aimed at the memberships section of my channel, but and I tried to draw some attention to it, like advertise it just through my community posts here and there, but no one so far had signed up. And so I kind of just put that area of my channel on hold for a while. But now that I actually have my first official member, I just can't believe it. It's like if I can get one, I can get two, right? And if I can get two, I can get 100. And so now I actually have to deliver on my promise and start making membership only content, which you, lucky subscriber or lucky membership sign up person, what do I call you? A member, right? Like technically, since you're the only member so far, you can request for me to make any video that you specifically want. So yeah, feel free to do that over in the memberships section if you want to, and I'll try my best to um, fulfill your requests. If you don't have any specific requests, I'm just gonna go ahead and start with the topics that I have already listed out for my membership, which don't you worry, I got you. I do have topics, but I've just been holding off on them because I haven't had anyone sign up for my memberships yet. So I didn't want to be up there like preaching to an empty audience or an empty auditorium. But yeah, keep it simple, sis. So this is a reminder to myself, first and foremost, like no matter how dejected I may feel, no matter how lacking in energy and just like overall, I don't want to say depressed, but I'm not motivated. Yeah, I'm very unmotivated lately and I'm moving at a much slower pace. Like I just can't bring myself to go and knock out like 10 to do items on my list every single day. I can only really I can only handle so much at a time. And I realized that, you know what? That is a-okay because as long as you're moving forward, like it doesn't matter. As long as you are taking one small action, that is all it takes to change your reality. Because, okay, so for example, like I am dragging my feet when it comes to applying to new jobs, right? And why am I dragging my feet? Well, because I'm kind of in denial at the fact that I have to find a new job, even because technically I'm still employed at my current employer. I'm away on sick leave. So my current contract ends at the end of January 2025. So I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm still holding on to this idea that some miracle is going to happen where, everything's just going to get resolved at work and maybe I can go back after the new year and they'll renew my contract and the situation is just going to solve itself. But I know deep down that that is not the reality. The reality is that, the reality is not horrible necessarily. It's not the worst case scenario. I am still employed on paper until the end of January. That counts for a lot. That means that if I hit the pavement running now, or even if I'm not running, okay, even if I'm taking baby steps, which is one of my favorite techniques ever to get things done, is just to take one baby step at a time and cultivate tunnel vision on that baby step to where it will reduce your anxiety. Because a lot of the times our anxiety comes from the overwhelm that we feel when we think about all the things that we have to do or how big and gargantuan of a goal that we have, to where we're just so overwhelmed at the idea of like, how can I possibly finish this huge gargantuan goal, when all you have to do is get tunnel vision and get really clear about the one task that you have to do in front of you right now to set things in motion. And then once you're done with that task, you move to the next one. And it's like every step that you take, put your blinders on when it comes to what was behind that step and what is going to come after that step. Right now, in this moment, in this present moment, your only job is to do that one step. And so, yeah, what was I saying? Taking action is honestly all there is to it. When you really whittle down like most of the advice out there about how to stay motivated or how to get yourself out of a rut, how to improve your situation, right? Like take the first step towards improving your situation, whether it be you're unhappy at your job like I am and you have to find a new one, or whether you're, God forbid, in a toxic environment like maybe an abusive household and you need to start getting your ducks in a row to leave that place. The most important thing you can do is to just take some sort of action, because when you take action, there will be real world consequences, right? It's a law of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, meaning when you take, even if it's the smallest action, you will see results in your reality that will then serve as proof to you that things are moving along, which is going to in turn motivate you to continue to take action. So, for example, if I'm dragging my feet right now on my job search process, right? All I have to do is send one email to one company, right? Send out one application, and it doesn't even have to be like the best email or the best cover letter that I've ever written. If I really needed to, I could just pick a job that I'm not necessarily that enthusiastic about. I don't need my first application to be like to a dream job or to the perfect position that I really, really want. I could just pick a random, like average job that I could take or leave it, and then use that as just a stepping stone to get myself started, to get the ball rolling in the job application process, if that makes sense. So once I send an email, it's going to set in motion like a longer sequence of events down the line. Maybe the next day, maybe a couple days from now, I'm going to get a response to that email. And it's going to prove to me that, hey, when you do things, other people in your environment or your environment itself they are going to respond to you. And whether it's positive or negative, that's only our perception. The point is that it will be proof that things are moving along, right? So, if the reply comes back from the recruiter in the negative, then at least I'll know that, okay, that job, there is no chance of getting that job. So we can shelve that one. And now I can move on and focus my energy completely on the second job application. Conversely, if the recruiter comes back in the affirmative, like, hey, we saw your application, we really think that you're a good candidate for this role. Please give us some dates for when you're available for the first interview so that we can start moving along in the application process. Then that's another sequence of events that, again, moves me forward, right? And that would be like, cool. Okay, so the recruiter gave me an okay to set up the first interview. That means that I can go to the next step when it comes to applying for this job. Even if the recruiter came back with a flat out no, like, sorry, you're not what we're looking for, or we've already shortlisted the candidates that we're considering, then at least I'll know that, okay, I don't need to waste any more time or energy on this opportunity. I can just go to the next. And so, yeah, super important to take any sort of action. And I think, how do I want to explain this? So, a lot of times I had an epiphany, like just 10 minutes ago when I was walking around outside, um, collecting snacks like a fiend for my midnight snacking habits. I had this epiphany that, okay, objects in motion stay in motion, right? I always come back to these laws of physics. I don't know why, but objects in motion stay in motion, and every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And the only thing that is constant is change. Or like the only thing, oh my God, what's the quote? Change is the only thing that is constant in life, something like that. Um, Basically, everything, change is inevitable, it's guaranteed, right? So if you take the law of physics that change is guaranteed, then that means that whenever you find yourself in a rut, or whenever your humans like to say we're stuck, right? All it takes is a matter of a perspective shift. What if you didn't think about it as if you were stuck, but what if you saw it for what it really was in physics terms, which is that you are the one keeping yourself stuck, because there's no possible way that you could be stuck by yourself if you were moving around in an organic manner, the way that just most objects or planets move in the solar system. Okay, I don't know if this is making sense. Let's say that these are two planets, right? my tier foundations that I think are super overhyped. Um, so we are in outer space, and this is, let's say that this one is the sun, and then we have the Earth, or let's say Mars, because I don't know, Mars is the red planet, and this is a red compact. So Mars is like rotating around the sun, right? Because of the gravitational pull. And that is the natural state of things. It's always moving. And the sun is always moving too. So it's like, I don't know if I can do this, if I can simulate this with my hands, but okay, I'm just gonna do it the simplistic way where the sun stays in place and then the planet is like rotating around it, right? In reality, like we're all of the bodies, all of the heavenly bodies are moving, like the sun. Our entire galaxy is floating through space, and then within that galaxy we have like the rotations of the planets around the sun. But yeah, you get the gist. So if this is the natural state of things, that means that we as humans as well, because we're all stardust, we are all made of stardust at the end of the day, so we're made of the same material as planets, right? Meaning that our natural state is also to like keep moving, keep changing constantly throughout our life, which means that if you feel stuck or if you feel like you're in a rut, that's not actually you, that's not something outside of your control, if that makes sense. That is, you think that it's out of your control. You think that you're just helpless and the man has you down, the system has you down, and it just has you stuck in this stagnant position. When in reality, all you have to do is flip the switch in your perspective and think of it in terms of, if you were a heavenly body rotating around the sun, if you were a planet rotating around the sun, um, in order for a planet to like all of a sudden stop and halt in its rotation and just stay in one place, that actually requires a lot of energy. Like hypothetically speaking, I don't know if this is even possible, but let's say that a planet that is in rotation all of a sudden stops, right? That would mean that some outside force would have to be large enough and exerting like in the opposite direction of the planet in order to stop it in its tracks, which means that it's not stuck in the sense that it's just helpless and that's just the way that um that's just its natural state. It's not. Something is holding it there because the natural state is for the planet to be moving and rotating, and even for the sun, the entire galaxy to be moving and floating through space. So that means if you feel stuck, then you or somebody outside of you, right? There are certain cases where it's literally like an outside force or a person keeping you stuck. But that's the point. Something is keeping you stuck. It's not you being stuck because that's your default state. That's not your default state. Your default state is to move and take action and float through life just the way that a planet would float through the solar system. So, yeah, this concept, keep it simple, sis, I find is just really helpful to remind myself of over and over throughout the day. Whenever I find myself feeling overwhelmed about like all the things I have to do or the magnitude of the things I have to do, the goals that I have that I feel like I haven't even taken the first step on, or I haven't even cleared, the preliminary requirements, how am I possibly going to finish it? I just bring myself back to keep it simple, sis. And I'm gonna go through, I have some examples listed out right now of just the most simple, basic, like banal things that you could possibly think of. But for me, I'm framing these as wins in my mind because they are. So, for example, when people sent me donations through my PayPal to help me out with like, I don't want to get into it here, but just all of the legal issues that have suddenly arisen with regards to my dad's estate and lawyer fees that I have to pay, and the fact that like I applied for sickness compensation because I'm eligible for that since I pay into healthcare, but it's going to take a long time. Like usually the average is 1 month to process my application. So I wouldn't be able to get the money in time to like pay my bills essentially for this month. And yeah, a lot of stuff is happening. So that's why I asked for donations to my PayPal, which a few people, like, I was shocked at how quickly people responded to that. And I said to myself, okay, you need to send a simple thank you note to these people, right? And for some reason, I put it off for 3 days, or not 3 days, like 2 days. Like, I could have just, if I was in a normal state of mind, I mean, if I was in a normal state of mind, I wouldn't have put that request out there because my normal state is not one of, you know, scrambling to find like work and funds to cover my expenses for this month. But yeah, in any other like normal situation, I would have just immediately sent a thank you note the moment that the notification came through for the donations. But for some reason, I just felt a lot of anxiety this time because I was already like kind of feeling sheepish, kind of feeling embarrassed about having to even ask people for help in that way. And so the fact that they gave it to me so quickly, like, number one, I was just super touched and moved by that generosity. But number two, I was also kind of embarrassed. It made me want to like hide a little bit because I was like, oh crap, people actually sent me money. So that means that like it's real now. And so now I have to acknowledge it. You know what I mean? It's stupid. But like I don't regret, putting that request out there. I thought long and hard before I made that post because I know my history. I have also been a generous person throughout my life. Now, I'm very picky about the people that I'm generous to, but to the people that I care about, like to my friends and my loved ones, and even certain creators that I support online, I have a clear track record of being generous myself, or even to like Uber drivers, Uber delivery people. I give tips to people that, sorry, I notice I give tips to people that give me exceptionally good service, or if I notice that the same person like tends to accept my order or my ride. Or, well, I guess for Uber rides, I've never really had the same person twice, but for Uber delivery, sometimes I'll get like the same person. And yeah, I'll give them a tip even though it's not the norm in Japan because I just feel like they deserve it. And if I have the extra change to spare, then why not? You know? So I feel like I have built up that goodwill throughout my entire life. And that's why I felt comfortable ultimately posting that request in my community tab. So, but yeah, for the reasons that I just explained, there was a moment where I felt kind of like embarrassed and I wanted to hide when people actually sent me some donations. But I had to push through that to do what I felt was right, which was to give a proper letter of thanks. Just a simple email, like just a couple of lines. But that took me 2 days to work up the nerve to do. So, so when I did that, when I finally sent out the first thank you email, that was the only one that I had to that was the only hurdle I had to get over, right? Because every other thank you note, I basically could have just I just copied and pasted the first message and maybe tweaked it a bit depending on the person. So that was a win for me, even though it's the most simple thing in the world, a thank you note. Like to me, that is something that aligns with my values, right? I like to express thanks to people when they've done something really significant for me, whether it's big or small. I like to voice my appreciation of people. And even if, like, even if I can't give anything back in equal monetary amount or something like that in the moment, I feel like the least I can do is give my verbal or written expression of my thanks. And so, yeah, like just to send out a couple of thank you notes, for some reason that took me 2 days to get over that, but when I reminded myself to keep it simple, sis, that's when I was able to break the mental block about that. Um, Another thing that I've been struggling with lately is fitness. Fitness has taken like all the way a backseat in my life amidst all the other drama that's going on right now. So I haven't been able to continue my pole dancing lessons for I don't even know how many months now. I don't remember the last time I went to pole dancing. Oh, I did go to a pole dancing class last time I was in Dubai. So that was at the end of July. It's been almost half a year since I went to a pole dancing class. Like, number one, because I don't know, I'm a little bit out of shape. So, you know how it is, the more you put off your workout or your hobby, then the more effort that it takes to get back to the level that you were before, and the more demotivated you get. So, that's the first issue. And then the second issue is that pole dancing classes are expensive, and I don't have the bandwidth financially right now to pay for pole dancing classes. They are like they probably raised their prices actually since the last time I checked, but even with the discount, so my studio that I usually go to sells 10 ticket bundles, like 10 lesson bundles you can buy, and you can get a little bit of a discount, like 10% discount on each class if you buy it in a group of 10. But they're even with that, one single lesson is at least 4,000 yen, and I just cannot afford to pay that right now. I don't have an extra 4,000 yen every week to spend on pole dancing lessons. So that's taken a back seat. But I was thinking to myself, you know what? That doesn't mean that you need to give up on your fitness completely, though, because fitness, like basic fitness, is not a luxury, right? That is something that is part of my self care. Everyone needs to take care of their physical body as well, which includes healthy diet. It includes an appropriate amount of exercise. So I was like, again, keep it simple. So maybe you can't take the fancy pole dancing or belly dancing classes that you want right at this moment, but that doesn't mean that you can't do any fitness at all. It's not all or nothing. So what I did instead was just walk outside. Every time I get like frustrated or antsy or I feel like I'm stuck in a rut, honestly, it sounds like the most simple thing in the world. Like, it's so simple that you wouldn't even think of it, but I just go outside and walk around my neighborhood if I ever find myself really stuck or feeling a lot of anxiety about a task in front of me, because I figure that at the very least, okay, even if I'm like quote unquote procrastinating on a certain task, like I don't want to write an email to a certain person or I don't want to fill out some form, at the very least, if I just put on my coat and without thinking, like without overthinking it, if I just put on my coat and my shoes and I go outside and go for a walk, that at least that time is going to be spent on something productive. I'm going to be moving my body, which is a net positive for me. And also, I am taking one class a week. So one of my pole dancing teachers, she recently had a baby, so she took a hiatus from teaching, but she just started up holding her private stretching lessons again, like extreme stretching, teaching you how to do splits and things like that, which I am nowhere close to being able to do a split, but that's one of my ultimate goals as well. And it's tied into my overall goals with wanting to be a better pole dancer, because I realized that, like, if you without flexibility, it doesn't matter how high of a level you can achieve in pole dancing. It's not gonna look nearly as good as if you are flexible. Like, if you are very flexible, even if you do really simple tricks on the pole, it will look so much more elegant and graceful, and it will look so much more impressive just because you're flexible, as opposed to if you're not very flexible and you do a bunch of like fancy tricks and you're hanging upside down and all of that. That's cool and all, but there's always going to be like a limit to how good you can look because you're not as flexible. So I once I realized that, I decided, okay, I need to prioritize first and foremost improving my flexibility. And so yeah, my pole dancing teacher who also hosts her own private extreme stretching lessons, she started up those lessons again after she because she's it's been a couple of weeks now since she gave birth to her baby, so she's able to go back to work. And I decided that I'm gonna go. I have been attending her stretching classes once a week, which is only 2,500 yen per lesson, right? Which is significantly less than what it would cost to go to pole dancing, but it still keeps me like somewhat on track with my fitness goals, if that makes sense. So that's my simple, keep it simple version of keeping my fitness and my health on track. And yeah, even with, I just mentioned in the beginning of the stream as well, even with my YouTube channel, I experienced a little bit of, I experienced kind of like a little jump in growth when I did that video reacting to Isis, the trophy wives situation. And a lot of people subscribed to me based on that video and a couple of subsequent videos that I did related to like sprinkle content, which I don't mind talking about, but I don't want to make that the core focus of my channel or anything. But yeah, after that little jump in subscribers, that was encouraging, but then it kind of flatlined after that, right? After the trophy wife situation died down a bit, which we are still waiting for the consensus on that, right? I don't think that, yeah, like I don't think they're, I think ISIS is probably done oversharing on the internet, but as far as the real life court proceedings and whatnot, I'm sure that this will be a long drawn out process. And I sincerely hope that, the most important thing at the end of the day, that we get justice for her children, whoever was harmed, which, you know, according to her, it was her daughters, but according to other evidence that has come out, it could have been all of her children in some capacity. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on her situation. But yeah, now that she's quiet and nobody is really talking about the trophy wife at this moment, like all of the attention that I got from that video has also kind of died off. But again, I told you yesterday, I got my first sign up for my YouTube membership. And I was like, wow, this is all I need. Like, it doesn't matter if it's one person or 100 people or 1,000 people. All of those numbers are greater than 0. So that means that there's no barrier now for me to start making content exclusively for my membership. So that's another encouraging thing. And then oh my god, I have here, this is funny. Okay, so do I want to tell the whole backstory to this? There's a Brazilian telenova from 1998 that I don't know how the algorithm recommended this to me. Well, actually, I do know, but I'm not going to get into details about that. But yeah, basically, YouTube recommended this telenova to me from 1998. It's in Portuguese. So it was like, it features all Brazilian actors, right? And it is like one of the most amazing series, if not my favorite series at the moment, that I've ever seen in my life. So I don't even want to talk about it because I'm super selfish and I want to keep it to myself. Like I don't want to discuss it with other people. It's up there with Gattaca, I'm gonna say, which is a huge statement for me because Gattaca is my favorite movie of all time. But Gattaca I can talk about because I don't know, it was a one-off, and I feel like even when I talk about Gattaca, um, the people who know that movie are still kind of few and far between. But yeah, I'm not ready to share this TV series yet. Maybe after I've watched it a couple of times, like maybe after I'm a little more familiarized with it, I won't have a problem sharing. But as of now, I still kind of want to I'm still in that selfish stage of wanting to keep it to myself. But it's about a priest and a prostitute that fall in love with each other, and I just can't. Like, and it just reminded me of that song Judas by Lady Gaga. So I think Lady Gaga is a pretty annoying person overall. However, I do not deny her talent. Um, my favorite song of her, my favorite song of hers ever is Judas. I don't know if you guys know the song. It's like Judah, Judah us. I'm not gonna attempt to sing it now, but it came out when I was in university, and I remember, first of all, when it came out, I knew the moment I heard it that, oh, this is my favorite Lady Gaga song of all time. Like nothing is ever gonna top this, and I was right. Although a close second, I will say. Can you guys guess what my second favorite Lady Gaga song is? Because it's not that I don't like her music. I mean, I'm familiar with all of her hit singles like Bad Romance. What was the first one that she ever came out with? I had a little bit too much. I'm gonna look this up because it's bothering me. Poker Face, Poker Face. Yeah. So I didn't mind Poker Face. I'm not a fan of Bad Romance though, even though I know that everybody kind of holds that up as the quintessential Gaga song. I felt like it was just a little bit too forced for me. Like it was just trying too hard for me, both in terms of the lyrical matter and the music video and even the vocal style. Um, I recognize that it's a good song, like it's well produced and all of that, but I personally do not jive that well with Bad Romance. But Judas, however, I love Judas, okay? And I remember laughing my ass off with my roommate in college when that song first came out because we were both like obsessed with that song. It's about first of all, the concept is so genius. Like she made the 12 disciples of Jesus into a biker gang in the music video. And I guess Judas, I'm sorry, I'm not really well versed on religious stories or whatnot. So I just know that Judas is some sort of fallen angel, right? So in the lyrics of the song, she's like, Jesus is my virtue, but Judas is the demon that I cling to. And sorry, there's like a police car outside my window. But yeah, as I was watching that series about the priest falling in love with a prostitute, I would listen to Judas in between as well because that would just put me in the mood. Speaking of Lady Gaga, okay, I'm gonna get to the point, but I just need to get this out of my system as well. I had another pole dance teacher that I literally had to stop going to her classes because she played Lady Gaga every single time. Like she was obsessed with Gaga to the point where she would always play Lady Gaga during the classes, like during the warm-up stretches, and then she would, if it was a choreographed class, she would make up choreography to Lady Gaga songs. And I was just like, girl, I love you, but I did not come here to be a Lady Gaga cover band dance troupe. Like I came here because I wanted to learn pole dance, and that is not the style of music that I like to pole dance to. So she would always play Lady Gaga and K-pop songs. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to learn choreography to this. I prefer like the more exotic, like Arabic beats, like the really heavy remixes. But anyway, Judas is my favorite single from Lady Gaga. And then Alejandro is a close second. So Judas and Alejandro are my favorite songs from Lady Gaga. There is a character named Alejandro, by the way, in that Brazilian TV series that I'm obsessed with. And I just remember back in college, me and my roommate were laughing our asses off when Judas first came out, when the single was first released, because the cover album art for Judas was created in Microsoft Word. Yeah, you can look it up on the Wikipedia page. Lady Gaga created the Judas album cover art in Microsoft Word. which you can't get more basic or simple than that. And yet we're talking about a global superstar, wildly successful record and music video. I'm going to show you. This was the cover art for Lady Gaga's Judas. So this is a prime example of keeping it simple, sis. Like Lady Gaga, she has access to the best graphic designers, the best album cover art artists in the world, and yet this is what she was feeling for the cover for Judas, and so that's what she created. And it's a multi-selling whatever, I don't know how many awards that song in particular won, but Lady Gaga is a multi-platinum selling Grammy-winning artist, is she not? So if Microsoft Word is good enough for her, then it's good enough for the rest of us, no? So, like in my case, I apply the same philosophy to my CV, for example. I don't need to have the most visually appealing, fanciest looking CV as long as it's clean and easy to read and concise and to the point. I don't put too many frills on my CV because the fancier ones, unless you are in some sort of like specific industry where you need to demonstrate your graphic design prowess or something like that, most recruiters actually, like most recruiting professionals or job search consultants actually tell you the more simple your resume is, the better. And that's usually like the most boring looking CVs are usually the ones that companies gravitate towards and they take more seriously, because the whole point is that the content of the CV is what matters, not the presentation, right? They want to see that you actually have the necessary experience and skills that are necessary to do the job that they're advertising for. So I've never had a fancy CV, and I have been able to get like plenty of great opportunities from that. What else? I just love reminding myself to keep it simple, and not only that, but to celebrate our small wins. I feel like we just don't do that enough, and it's more important than ever to do that when during a low period in your life, during your flop era, so to speak. Like it took me months and months to get sorry, this is not one, this is two. It took me months to get one person to sign up for my memberships in YouTube. I didn't even know, I mean, up until yesterday, before it happened, I didn't know that it would ever happen for me. I had thoughts that, what if I can never get a membership off the ground? Like, what if this is just it? That I am just going to remain a small creator forever and I can only really count on money from AdSense and, commissions kickback from my YesStyle code or my Amazon affiliate link. Like, what if I never achieve enough growth to be able to establish enough credibility to convince people to sign up for my memberships? And yet now here we are, like 24 hours later, and I have my first member. And even though it's just one, that's enough. Like, that's all that we need. And that is a cause for celebration, if you ask me. Latasha Stanfield, hello. Info. Hi, boo. Nice to see you again. I recognize your name, but I can't remember like what we talked about before. But yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming back. And okay, so another another theme that I wanted to visit is that Darwin said, what do you guys think Darwin said? What is the infamous quote that is often mistakenly attributed to Darwin, but he actually never said it that way? Survival of the fittest, right? Why did I slur that? Let me say that again clearly. Survival of the fittest, which most people misinterpret to mean that you have to be at the top of your game. You have to be the apex predator. You have to be the top, the number one person in your field or in your school, whatever, in order to survive. When in fact, that's not what Darwin discovered at all. Darwin never even said survival of the fittest. Somebody else coined that term. Do you want to know who coined the term survival of the fittest? I'm looking this up as we speak because I have the worst memory. Herbert Spencer is the person who coined the phrase survival of the fittest, and he used it to basically sum up Darwin's findings about how all living organisms have to compete to survive and reproduce in nature, and only the ones that are able to do it can survive and have their genes passed on. But this is such a misleading statement because survival of the fittest implies that you have to be the apex predator at the top in order to survive, when that is not the case at all. It should be survival of the good enough, like survival of the just barely making it. Not that that's the ideal state that you want to stay in. There's a lot of people in the world that are living on the poverty line in third world countries. They're barely making it day by day. I'm not saying that we want those people to stay in that situation. No, we should always, this is why it's so important for societies to create opportunities for upward mobility, upward social mobility and economic mobility for its citizens. But the point being, though, is that even with people living on the poverty line, living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, they're still living, though. They're still grinding along. And so that means that speaks to survival of the good enough, not survival of the fittest. As long as you are meeting the criteria, the bare minimum criteria necessary to survive on this planet, you're still in the game. I'm a small content creator myself. I stopped making psychic videos because of my Christian religious beliefs. Oh yeah, I think I met you on maybe did I meet you on a Shira 7 live stream back in the day? This is so nostalgic. This is so interesting because Shira 7 is, there's a whole discussion about her now because of the trophy wife situation that happened lately, which I don't really understand. I mean, I do understand why people people have been waiting for this opportunity to drag Shira into some mess. That is why her name is being mixed in with this drama. But in reality, I mean, we all know that this is not Shira's fault, obviously. But that's where you know me from. Good to see you. I'm glad you're still making content. Continue and don't get discouraged. Oh, thank you so much, Latasha. And yeah, thank you for checking in on me again. And good for you for you said you stopped making psychic videos because of your religious beliefs. So good for you for getting aligned and in integrity with what you believe in. I hope you're still making content too. Just because you can't make psychic content doesn't mean you can't continue to upload. But no, Darwin said good enough, you guys. Let me pull up the exact quote that Darwin is known for. It's not survival of the fittest. That was Herbert Spencer. But Darwin said, this is what Darwin said, which is much more, closer to the actual truth. It is not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It is not the strongest that survives, but the species that is able to best adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. That is what Darwin says. So as long as you are good enough, as long as you are able to adapt to the environment and to the changing times, you will win. Okay? You will survive this ish. I can't believe that there's so many people out there now still misinterpreting this finding by Darwin to mean that they have to be the best or they're not doing enough. Or, this is the whole sorry. This is the whole reason why people have imposter syndrome, is because they bought into this false idea that you have to be the best of the best in order to be considered successful or worth anything. No, who said? If Okay, let's just take a simple example. In school, what was your grading system like? For me, it was the regular like A to F grading system. 90 to 100 on a test is A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, so on and so forth, right? That means in order to get an A, or sometimes like A minus, A plus, depending on the school, in order to get an A, you have to get 90% or above score out of 100 on a test. So if you get a 90, that means you get an A. Just because you didn't get a 95 or 100, that doesn't make your A any less of an A than the next person. You see? Sorry. Oh my God. I just burped and I ate a lot of spicy chips earlier. And that's not pleasant. But anyway, yeah, if the cutoff is 90 for an A and you just barely make it, like you get an 89.5, but they rounded up to a 90, then you still made it at the end of the day. You're still in the group of A students. And that's on period, right? Do you know there's a fitness influencer out there that doesn't have like feet and is missing a couple of fingers? I don't know if he was born that way, or I think he was born with some condition and they had to amputate a couple of his fingers and his literal feet as a child so that he would be able to survive. And now he is a bona fide full-blown fitness influencer. Like he does all the things that fitness influencers do, like with the videos of him doing pull-ups and lifting the weights and all of that. Tosi Fitness, I think. Yeah, Tosi Fitness, this guy. Okay, you can't see. I'll put it in later when I edit, but this guy doesn't have all of his 10 digits, and yet he's a fitness influencer who does fitness influencer things. Like, can you imagine not having most of your fingers and not having feet, but he has enough? So he isn't missing, he's not missing all of his digits, but he's missing like quite a lot. But he has just enough to be able to hang on to like the bar when you're doing pull-ups and to lift weights and all the things that you need in order to do gym activities. I'm so sorry. You can tell I've never stepped foot in a gym by the way I'm talking right now, but like good enough, right? He has just enough fingers to lift the weights and to pull his body up, and he doesn't have feet, but even without feet, he's able to balance. So, who said you need feet? As long as you can balance, then you can work out, which means that you can be a successful fitness influencer and make money doing that on social media. Imagine if he said that, oh, I can't do this because I don't have 10 fingers and 2 feet. But who said that you had to have all your digits and all your feet in order to do fitness things? Nobody said that. You just have to have enough digits or, enough knuckles to be able to hold the bar, the dumbbell. I don't know what it's called. But as long as you have enough to hold the weights and to lift them up and down and to lift your own body up and down as you're doing pull-ups, then what's the difference, right? It doesn't matter if you're a fully able-bodied person with all of your digits or if you're missing a few. If you both clear the bar, like the minimum requirements of what it takes to just simply work out in a gym, then that means that you can be a fitness influencer, period. Like there's no arguing about, oh, but you're not good enough, like you're not in the top 10%. No, you made the minimum requirements, therefore you are. Like you are enough and therefore you're off to the races. Is it easier if you have all 10 of your fingers and if you have both of your feet? Sure, but that doesn't mean that you can't if you don't have all your digits and you don't happen to have your feet due to an amputation that you had to get as a child in order to prevent a disease from spreading throughout your entire body. Um, there are so many like pop singers out there who are not the best dancers, they're not the best vocalists, and yet they are still wildly successful. Taylor Swift, probably by her own admission, is not the best vocalist by far, but something about her has enough worldwide appeal. And I'm not saying that she's not talented. I mean, I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift, but she definitely has her own version of talent that resonates with a lot of people throughout the world. And so, therefore, she's one of the biggest pop stars in the world. And I think I heard something like when Taylor Swift goes to tour in a smaller city, the entire GDP or like the entire economy of that city is elevated for the weeks leading up to and after her tour because there's just so much buzz and energy generated around um the fact that she is gonna go to that city and do business there essentially and like attract all the fans and all the crowds. I mean, just her ticket sales alone, right? That jumpstarts the economy of whatever small city that she's going to, big or small. Um, Kate Moss is only 5'5", which is unheard of for a supermodel, right? It's I don't know like the average height of a supermodel, but I would imagine it would be at least 5'8", 5'10". 5'5" is more associated with commercial models, and yet Kate Moss is one of the most famous supermodels in the world because she was good enough. She was not the tallest. She may have not even been the ideal height for a supermodel, but some casting director somewhere decided that, you know what, she's tall enough to walk in this show and to book these gigs. And so she took those opportunities and now look where she is. I'm not the biggest fan of Kate Moss either. I heard that, I don't know. I'm not fazed by celebrities, in case you didn't know. So if I hear that a certain celebrity has a bad attitude or they have a bad reputation, then I judge them just as much as I would judge any regular person that has a bad reputation. Like, I'm not impressed, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't care how famous you are or how many people idolize you. If you're getting paid to do a job, then you should be expected to act professional on your job. It doesn't matter that you're a world famous supermodel with tons of screaming fans. Like, that doesn't give you free reign to act abusively towards people, towards other personnel that are less famous than you, or to show up late. Naomi Campbell, I'm looking at you. So yeah, hopefully this live, whoever needed to hear this message, hopefully this took the pressure off of you a little bit, especially if you tend to be like a perfectionist, or if you have imposter syndrome about something. Just remember that it was never about being the fittest or the best or the prettiest, the richest. It's only about being good enough. And let me tell you a secret. If you're alive right now, if you're breathing, like eating, sleeping, breathing, waking up, if you're here, then you've already made it, right? Everything that matters is already taken care of. Like, you're here, you're living. And if you're watching this video, then you probably have more privilege than a huge segment of the world already, because that means you have access to internet, whether it's on your phone or on a laptop, what have you. Even if it's on somebody, like a borrowed phone, your friends, or I don't know, a library, a laptop that you borrowed from your community library for free, that's enough. And never forget that, you know? When you're next time you're in a room with impressive people, like, okay, maybe you got invited as a plus one to a party with a bunch of millionaires or self-made entrepreneurs, and if you find yourself starting to revert back to that thought process of, oh my God, do I belong here? I'm so unimpressive compared to these people. No, the fact that you are there already physically in that room means that you belong there, period. Or else you wouldn't be there, right? Like, it's so simple that it sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but it needs to be said, because once you say it out loud, it's almost like that alone breaks the spell, or it breaks whatever like weird concocted imaginary scenario that you had made up in your head, making things more complicated than they actually are. If you're in a room, you belong. If you are in a room, you belong there, period. It doesn't matter how you got there. Even like Anna Delvey, is that her name? I forgot. You know, that the fake Russian heiress billionaire? Okay, I'm not saying that you need to, or that you should follow her model necessarily. Anna Delvey, yeah. Her real name is Anna Sorokin, and she LARPed as this Russian heiress, essentially. And she infiltrated New York high society and was able to, convince like all of these high profile people to like invest in her scams and whatnot. Later she got caught, so I don't know if she's in jail right now or if she fled somewhere, but is she in jail? Sorry, I need to know. She was released in February 2021. Okay. So yeah, I'm not saying to con people or be a scam artist, but I'm just saying, even in her case, she believed that she truly deserved to mingle with people in high society, and she truly believed that she was an equal to these people. Therefore, that attitude alone is what got so many people to buy into her scam, because she was so confident and she knew that she belonged wherever she managed to get her foot in. Like, it doesn't even matter the method by which she did it, which in her case was a lot of deceit. But after all that's said and done, though, she was able to access those rooms, and she not only that, she actually made real connections with some of the legitimately successful people in those rooms. And so you couldn't tell her nothing, right? Unfortunately, she wasn't smart enough to keep her scam going in the end, but while it was happening, though, she was good enough. And since she didn't suffer from like insecurities or imposter syndrome or anything. Her gall alone carried her that far. So imagine how far you can go as a person who doesn't scam people, as somebody who is just trying your best, you know, making an honest effort. Like, imagine how ludicrous it would be to think that you don't deserve something or you don't belong somewhere just because of some untrue idea that you have in your head about how you're below other people for whatever reason. It's not true. It's all in your head. It's all up to you how you interpret your situation. Let me see if I had another example here. Just to make sure I don't miss anything. Oh yeah, another thing that I just thought about now is Wicked. So I love it when people achieve things at later ages in life. Like, I love how particularly the millennial generation, I have to give credit to my generation. I'm sorry. I mean, there's great examples of this in every generation, but I truly do think that the millennial generation is the spearhead of the refusal to succumb to ageism. Like, millennials truly refuse to age physically as well as in the sense that we refuse to give up our dreams that we've held ever since we were little children or teenagers. Like, we refuse to give that up. Okay. Even if, I guess, other generations before us, they might say that, okay, it's too late to become a pop star or a rock star once you're past the age of 30. But millennials, we are not trying to hear any of that. And I love us for that. So, the Wicked movie comes to mind when I think about this ageism conversation because, like, Ariana Grande is still relatively young. She's only 32, right? And she looks young for her age. So I'm not so much talking about her, but Cynthia Erivo, I have seen people come out and criticize the fact that she comes across a little too old to be a college student. So if you haven't seen Wicked, or if you don't know the story, it's kind of like it's essentially a fan fiction to The Wizard of Oz, written by Gregory Maguire. Um, Interestingly enough, I read a lot of Gregory Maguire's other fan fictions about other fairy tales aside from Wicked. I never actually read the Wicked series. So, but I read his works based on other fairy tales, if that makes sense. So, like Cinderella and, I don't know, Snow White, whatever other fairy tales that he released his books on. It's been a while. I read those when I was in high school, but I always avoided Wicked just because I personally don't really care for the Wizard of Oz story. Like, I don't feel a connection to Oz, not in the same way as Hogwarts, for instance, right? Although reluctantly, because Harry Potter has kind of an annoying author, but I can't deny that the story has stuck with me throughout the years. Wizard of Oz, I'm just not attached to, and I don't feel like the characters resonate with me. Even with all of the recent buzz surrounding the new Wicked movie, I just cannot. I can recognize that there was a lot of work put into this, and um, it's a huge production, and everyone poured their blood, sweat, and tears into it. I can recognize that it's a quality movie, but I just don't feel that emotional connection to the story or the characters. Anyway, with that being said, though, I noticed that a lot of people were criticizing the fact that Cynthia Erivo and some of the other cast members as well look a little bit too old to be playing university students. And on the one hand, I kind of like, I can see where they're coming from. It's not so much for Cynthia Erivo because, to be honest, she is covered in green makeup throughout the whole movie. So that, in a weird way, like, even though it's one of the central conflicts for her character, the fact that she was born green and discriminated against that for her whole life, the fact that Cynthia Erivo actually underwent like the whole makeup process to turn her skin green. It wasn't CGI. They actually put green foundation on her every single day. I feel like the makeup alone, it masked like any wrinkles, or not that she has wrinkles, but the makeup covered whatever perception that you would have of her being older than the character. And so in that sense, I feel like it worked out for Cynthia Erivo's character. But definitely, when it comes to Fiyero, like that guy definitely did not look in his early 20s like they're all supposed to be. And yet he got cast for the role because he fit the criteria that they were looking for the Fiyero character. And so again, survival of the good enough, okay? That means he didn't have to be the youngest, like the freshest face, the most strapping young lad. Like he was that actor, I don't know how old he is. Let's look it up. Fiyero is played by Jonathan Bailey, who is how old? 36 years old, playing like a 22-year-old. And look, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but with Jonathan Bailey, I really had to suspend my disbelief because you can literally see his wrinkles. Like he has a more weathered face than some other 36-year-olds out here. He definitely looks his age. And yet, guess what? It doesn't matter what I think or what other moviegoers think, because at the end of the day, he's the one that got the role of Fiyero. He's the one that gets all the glory, as he should, because as all of them should, because they put up so much effort and time into making that movie and into their characters. And so, to hell what the public thinks, including myself. At the end of the day, the casting director chose them to play those characters, and that is the final word on it, no matter what the naysayers try to say later, or the critics. And yeah, I love that for millennials, the fact that we just refuse to age. And I mean, I think another factor that kind of added to that whole, what's the word, vengeance, not vengeance, but the conviction that we have regarding this aging conversation is that we had 4 years taken away from us due to the pandemic. Like everything was put on hold for 4 years. So you damn right I'm gonna try to reclaim that time and relive a younger period. I let's see, how old was I? Yeah, I'm 35 now. So I was like 30 to 34, 30 to 33 during the years of the pandemic, where some industries felt it more than others. But even for me, like a regular person, not an actor or anything, I also had a hard time finding jobs in IT. I couldn't find a job in IT during the first 2 major years of the pandemic. So I had to take a completely unrelated job with like a 50% pay cut for those 2 years. And it wasn't until 2020, the end of 2022, where I was able to finally get another decent, like stable, decent paying IT job. But I can only imagine. I mean, that's for IT, where it doesn't really matter how old you are or anything like that. But imagine for if you work in an industry that is largely dependent on, your looks and your age, like acting. I mean, if I was an actor, I would not care if a role called for somebody that was in their early 20s, but I happened to be in my late 30s because I wasn't able to work for all of my mid 30s due to the pandemic lockdown situation. Like, you damn right I'm going to go try out for all those 20-something-year-old roles, and you're going to pick me because I'm good enough. Okay? I fit the bill of this character, and I wouldn't care if I had, so what if I have a few extra wrinkles on my head? That's what makeup is for. That's what special effects and editing is for. Another good example, yeah, and it's just I was kind of surprised, to be honest, with the Wicked movie because, like, again, I guess I've never seen anyone past the age of 36 play a teenager or a young adult before. Like, I know that Moaning Myrtle, the actress who played Moaning Myrtle in the Harry Potter movies, she was like 35 or 36 when she played that role. So I think at the time, I read some article that said she was the oldest person to ever portray a teenager on screen. But now we have like Ariana Grande, 32, Cynthia Erivo, 37, portraying college age students, which is 18 to 21. So yeah, that's a teenager. And Fierro, who literally looks like a 36-year-old man, which is what he is, but yet they put his ass up in there in the Shiz University uniform, just like everyone else, you know? And Bowen Yang, who is another cast member, is 34, so he's my age, also playing a college student. I remember similar outcries when Margot Robbie was announced to play Barbie and Ken was announced to be played by Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling was 40 when he played Ken, like the quintessential all-American, you know, strapping young American youth picture of male American youth. And people were trying to criticize the fact that Ryan Gosling was given the role at 40, but you can criticize and you can stay mad all you want. At the end of the day, the role still went to Ryan Gosling. And there's nothing you can do about it. Ryan Gosling is 44 now? Wow. So Barbie, wait. Barbie came out 2 years ago, right? No, Barbie was last year, 2023. So Ryan Gosling was actually even older than 40 when he portrayed Ken. He was 42, 43. And Margot Robbie was like, what, 33? And people tried to complain that they were too old to play the dolls because the dolls are supposed to be in their 20s. Says who, though? Says you or says the director? Because the director picked 33-year-old Margot Robbie and 43-year-old Ryan Gosling. And if you have a problem with it, you can just not watch the movie. So yeah, keep it simple, sis. And remember that Darwin said survival of the good enough, not the fittest. Because to hell with the fittest. I mean, what really is the benefit of being the fittest? Okay, maybe you can win the gold medal at the Olympics, right? That is a prize that they reserve for truly the fittest, like the cream of the crop. But aside from that, like, what do you really gain? I mean, do the gold medalists automatically get guaranteed the best contracts? Are they guaranteed to earn the most money just because they are a gold medalist? Or is it usually based on a bunch of other factors? Like, for example, Maria Sharapova. Do you guys remember the tennis star? I feel like she's been very quiet lately, but I remember when I was growing up, people would always make fun of Maria Sharapova. I hope I'm saying her name right. Because she, I guess, was infamous for not really winning that much, but yet because of her conventional attractiveness, she got a lot of brand deals. And I remember like the Canon, I think it was the Canon commercials, Canon cameras, and I would always see her as their, image model spokesperson. So, I mean, I saw Maria Sharapova more than Sharapova. Sharapova, yeah. I saw Maria Sharapova more than the people that actually won the tennis matches back in the day. I couldn't even tell you who won if you ask me right now because I don't follow sports like that. But I follow popular culture and I watch TV, and I can tell you who appeared on my TV screen the most often. It was Maria Sharapova. So does it matter that she was not the best at tennis? Because she was still there and doing her thing and making her bag. So yeah, just a reminder, stop beating yourself up for no reason. It's literally useless. Unless you're a masochist, why would you even entertain the thought of imposter syndrome or thoughts of, I'm too old to do something, or I'm not talented enough to do something. I don't have enough experience to truly excel at this job. I mean, if you were picked for it though, and if you're there already, then that means that you already passed the test. And so what are you agonizing over at that point? Just get on with it. Like, get on with the show and do your thing, That's all I wanted to say. I think I covered everything. Thanks so much for joining me as usual. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I think that's a sign for me to get off. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye.